Jonathan says, are the map embeds the only thing MGYB sells for maps SEO? No, not by far. My furnace guy wants to rank in maps, but doesn't care about his website. What is the main difference in maps SEO versus website SEO? Well, there's a lot of similarities, a lot of overlap, but with maps SEO, you can focus entirely on the Google properties, right? The Google ecosystem. So the map URL itself, I'm going to demonstrate how to get the best map URL to build links to. You can do map embeds. You can do citation building. If he's got a legit, if you say it's your furnace guy, so I'm assuming is a HVAC guy, and he's got a real business, then it's probably registered to a real address. Even if it's a service area business, you can build citations for that. That's something I always recommend doing if you have a valid address. So there are a number of things that you can do, but very specifically, MGYB sells, pretty much every one of our services can be applied to ranking in maps, or maps SEO, as you called it, right? So for example, let me just give you a couple of examples here. This is something that you can go check out, gmb.reviewsmaker.com, right? So let's just go to, I'm just going to type in HVAC contractor Culpeper, for example. Okay, so I'm going to click on K&M Heating and Air, heating and air conditioning. And in fact, actually, let me just copy that name. And this is what I'm going to do. So this is how you can get the best URL to build links to if you're going to be doing link building to the map, right? So there's embeds, there's also link building, there's press releases, you can embed a map in the press release, plus you can also create a contextual link or just a naked URL in the actual press release back to the map itself. I'm going to give you a few examples here of how you can get better results. So let's go back to Google for it first. Here's a couple ways that you can do this. Number one, you can go into your GMB dashboard or your client's GMB dashboard. And on the info tab, where you'll always see this one little section where it says view on maps, or view on search and view on maps. You can right click on the view on maps and copy link address and then paste it into a notepad file and then reformat it. I'm going to show you the correct format. So that's one way to find it, the best URL for building links to a map, Google map, right? The second way is to go type in or go search for your client's business name in Google. So in this case, I'm going to search for K&M Heating and Air Inc., because that's just the example that I pulled. Then I'm going to click through to the maps listing. And you'll see up here in the address bar of Chrome, I've got this long, ugly URL, right? Well, if you go to gmb.reviewsmaker.com, okay, and you click to decode place ID and just paste that long maps URL in there and click decode place ID. It's going to take a second. Then it's going to come down and it's going to give you this maps URL right here, okay? And I'm going to copy that link address and I'm going to paste that into a notepad file. Now, if you take a look at this URL, I'll show you, and I've demonstrated this before, but I want to answer this question thoroughly for him, is if we go to like wheregoes.com or something like that, some sort of redirect tracer, I can paste that URL that it gives you, right? So from here, and if we take a look at this, you'll see that this has got a 302 redirect built into it. In fact, there's 2 of them. So that is not a good URL to use for link building. Like if you want to build links to this URL, you're not passing any page rank or link equity essentially through these 2 302 redirects. That stops it dead, right? So in other words, you can link to it. Somebody could click on that link and it's going to navigate or jump to the final target URL or the destination, which is this. But as far as passing link equity, if you're to build links to this, it's not going to pass any. So it's not a good URL to build links to, which by the way, this URL right here, the share URL, take a look at how many redirects are in this one. If we go back to where goes. It might even, there it goes. Look at that. Look how many redirects are in there. 3 302 redirects and then a meta refresh. So that's not a good URL either. This share URL, don't build links to that. That's dumb. It does no good, right? So what you want to do is you want to take that URL, which by the way, you can just take the URL from here and go to a redirect tracer and then paste it in and then copy the final URL, or just memorize this, which is what I did. It's very simple. Copy that URL, and then just change it, just rearrange it to where you change the maps right there. So maps.google.com, you would change it to www.google.com, then / CID equals is what the original one is. So all you want to do is move maps from before the subdomain from maps to the right after the /, then it's / CID equals, and we'll take that, copy that, paste it in. So it's just a quick change or modification of the URL. And now watch this. If we take this, we go back to a redirect tracer, quick trace URL. There's no redirects. See that? Now, if we go load that URL into the address bar and click go, you'll see once the page loads, it converts to that long URL, but it's not technically a redirect, right? So that's the best URL to build links to, is this one right here. So that's something else that you can do, right? So like I mentioned before, you can embed a map into press releases. You can also build links directly to this maps URL, right? So that's one thing you can do. RYS drive stacks are incredibly powerful if you provide the NAP, the name, address, and phone number of the business, as well as the maps URL. We'll build a drive stack that is hyper optimized for that specific location, right? And we'll push a ton of power directly to the Google properties, especially like you said, if he's not interested in ranking a website, you can select to push all of the juice from the drive stack back to the maps, the Google properties, which would be the maps, the GMB website. You should order the the Google site along with that. The Google site will be part of that. So you can build all of the power back to the actual maps listing. However, there's a couple other things I want to mention. Let's see, just because there's a few other points here that you can add additional power to, right? So for another one is the reviews. This company in particular has 21 reviews. I don't know how many your client has, but if we click on that review link, right, it's going to pull up here. Well, that is a different URL. So up here is another URL. I would suggest using your own 301 redirect creator. There are a number of them out there that you can use that are free. Some of them that are paid, like a subscription based, and others that you can create 301 redirects from a plugin through a website, which is what I prefer to do that through my own domain or something, through a branded domain or a domain that I'm using specifically for redirects, that kind of thing. But if you take, like here, I'll open up Firefox just to show you that URL right there. I would create a 301 redirect out of that URL. And what's it do? It automatically loads to these reviews. So you can push link equity into this. Well, let's not stop there. What about each one of these individual reviews? For example, if I was to click share on that one from Alan Jackson, which looks like a lot of these are spam. I don't know. Alan Jackson's a country singer, and Ron White is a comedian. But if we're to take that URL right there and paste that in, you'll see that that is a separate URL. Like that's a redirect, as I just talked about. If you click the share URL, it's going to give you a redirect. So watch what happens when we trace that one. This is to the individual review. It's still a 302 redirect. So that's not what you want to build links to, not this. What you want to build links to is this, which again, if you want to make it a pretty URL, all you got to do is use a 301 redirect creator. Like I said, there are some free ones out there. There are some ones that you can pay for subscription basis, like rebrand.ly for is example of one, or there's another one, or like what I like to do is use my own domain or client's domain and use the Pretty Links Pro plugin to create 301 redirects. Okay. Either way, that's the URL you want to build to, and that's the same URL as what's up here, right? But you can build it through a 301 redirect. And look, that's an individual review within that maps listing. And if this one's got 21 reviews, that's 21 additional link targets, right? Plus this one being a link target, which is the overall reviews URL, plus the maps URL itself, right? Which is this version of it that I just talked about being the best version. There's more too. Think about photos, right? For example, this guy's only got, looks like it said 4, but I'm only, well, maybe that was, let's go back into photos here. 4 photos. It says 4 photos. Each one of these is a separate URL. So my point is, if you're just going to be doing map stuff for a client, what I like to do is extract all the URLs from the maps listing, set up redirects so that they're pretty and they're short, much easier to manage, and then start using those in link building campaigns, which you can also use those to be included in a drive stack as target URLs, where we'll build the drive stack to be targeting each one of those separate URLs. And what happens is you push juice into this listing from all different angles, and every single point that you can push link equity into it. It's very, very powerful. You want to add to that, Marco?
Yeah. He's asking about Maps SEO. And I'm just going to say local GMB Pro. It's what set the standard for GMB optimization. Every other course that came after copied what we did. So if you want the trailblazer, the standard bearer, the one that laid it down on how it's properly done, then you go and get local GMB Pro, and you can learn what Bradley just talked about more in depth, along with many other things that you could do to push the GMB, the map into the 3-pack, which is what your client is looking for. They don't care about the website. Fine. So you work entirely within the GMB ecosystem, which is what local GMB Pro is all about. So guys, if you really want to do this right, if you want that hard hit into the 3-pack, you go into local GMB Pro.
That's right. And in there, we talk about various other things. I'm not going to talk about specific methods here, but just so you know, that, again, this client, or this client, he's not my client, but this contractor, HVAC contractor, is also doing GMB posts. He probably has an SEO that is working on his stuff. And take a look at that, guys. Again, these are all additional link targets, right? We copy that URL and go back to the redirect tracer, which I already closed. And once again, this is a GMB post URL, right? It's going to redirect. Don't ever use the share URLs for SEO purposes. You can use it for navigation purposes, but look how many redirects are there. So what you want to do is end up taking this URL and using that as, that could be potentially another link target, right? Does that make sense? So if we're going to just open up that URL and see, it didn't bring it up. It's probably the one prior to that, this one, which is okay because that's a meta refresh. So that's fine. Let's open it up there. There. See how I brought it up? It brought that post up to the very top. So the same thing goes. You can take an older post and do the same thing. You could share it, copy the share URL, put it in. Now, at Local GMB Pro, we talk about a hell of a lot of really cool things that you can do with GMB posts that I'm not going to talk about here. But I'm just saying you can actually use these posts as additional places to build links to, right? So again, this one right here, I would take this URL, copy that. That's what I would build links to, and watch what happens. If I load that into the browser, it's going to pull up that post at the top. See, the one that I just shared. Does that make sense? So all of those are link targets. That's why I said there's just a ton of different things that you can do to push additional power into there, not just through embeds. Embeds are very powerful, don't get me wrong, but there's a number of other things that you can do. So that was a good question.